Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to another episode of CTLN Opinion Plus. As you know, this is a space for our opinions and where we talk about current events and questions the Latino community are curious to know. Today, we have Matt Fluery of the Connecticut Science Center. Matt has served as the president and chief executive officer for the center since 2009. He is the chairman of the Connecticut Board of Regents for Higher Education. Welcome, Matt. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure. I appreciate the invitation.
We know you're busy. You have a fundraising gala coming up, but the Green Gala is going virtual this year. Tell us about the event and the decision to go virtual.
Well, I think like many organizations that rely on generous fundraising, we've had to change the format for that this year because you're just not able to have large gatherings. And our gala event at the convention center can attract over 600 people, and it's just not viable. However, we have a very strong, supportive community around the Connecticut Science Center, and these individuals still want to support our work, and they understand that now more than ever, the cause of a science-minded, science-aware, and engaged public is extremely important. So we decided to move the gala to an online format. It will be a really wonderful presentation, including luminaries like Mo Rocca, who are going to help us bring science from many perspectives to those who sign in. And we're really excited about it, though certainly sorry to lose that very special in-person experience that I would like to say, famous for.
So what is the fundraising going towards this year?
Well, the gala raises money for all of the educational programs, including the experiences we provide here at the Connecticut Science Center to our visitors, whether they be on field trips or families or children coming with caretakers on a vacation day or a rainy weekend. All of those things cost money to deliver. We have an excellent team of great professionals who are really passionate about bringing science to all children and all families. And we have to be able to compensate them for their work and to keep the building warm, cool, lighted, all of the things that are necessary to operate a beautiful but very large facility such as that we have here at the Connecticut Science Center. So donations to the event will all go to support those things.
And you mentioned previously that now is a time where science and news that comes from science is very important and pertinent. Recently, a science magazine, Scientific American, they released an endorsement for the presidency, and that's not normally something the science community is known for. What do you think about the American perception of science in 2020?
Well, it's a crucial issue. We're in a place where, policymakers, including those here in Connecticut, have relied on what science tells us, what data tells us, and have shaped public policy and the response to the coronavirus pandemic in a way that is science informed. And the fact that we're still around a 1% infection rate after a really hard start when we were among the first states to get hit by COVID, I think suggests that that's the right approach. And we also know that no matter what side of the political spectrum you're on, you're looking for a vaccine. And a vaccine comes from only one place, and that's science. And the wisdom to use a vaccine and to deploy a vaccine, and the decision by individuals to accept the vaccine as the way to assure their safety and the health and safety of all those, the communities around us, depend on science and science literacy. So I just, as much as we've been passionate about science education in terms of the opportunities students who are science, technology, engineering, and math prepared can have jobs in those fields. As important as that's always been to us, And as important as it's always been to us that people be aware of the impact they have on our natural resources and the world around it and can innovate ways to occupy this planet in a more sustainable manner, the coronavirus pandemic and the science-related arguments that it has prompted, I think, are deeply concerning for us as a society. And science centers are really committed and devoted to the idea that we play an important role in science, not only for those who are, science aficionados per se, people who really live in a science world, but for those who may be unaware or may have questions about what science means and perhaps may be prone to be arriving at the wrong conclusions in ways that are detrimental to themselves, their families, our society, and our planet.
That was a very in-depth answer. Speaking of education, you guys provide a lot of it. You did provide more extensive education after the pandemic led to the closing of the museum. Can you tell us a little bit about the education that you provide, not just for children, but for people of all ages?
Yes, I mean, the Science Center, like many organizations and schools, as I know you discussed with Commissioner Cardona from the Connecticut Department of Education recently, had to pivot very quickly from the in-person science experiences for which museums and science centers in particular are really known. That's our calling card, to online delivery of experiences that we try to make as special as they are here at the Science Center. I would have to say, and I hope it doesn't betray, sort of an old school view of things, that it's very hard to replicate the in-person experience that a family or friends can have together at a museum or a science center. That said, I'm really proud of the work that our team undertook an extraordinary short period of time to transfer to offer online, so that families at home over this very, very challenging summer were able to have a window to science, enjoyment with science, interesting things to do and talk about, experiments to do at home. And now we're offering those to teachers and schools so that they can bring those to their students in the classroom, where in many cases they can't have field trips, they can't have people come in to do presentations. And teachers are also, frankly, grappling with how to best enrich the experiences that school students have under these challenging circumstances.
Right. And another thing that you guys provide is STEM education, correct?
STEM education is, a really important part of what we do. We're focused on that, particularly from a career awareness and opportunity perspective. And, it may be interesting to your audience to know that we recognize the data tells us very clearly that science has typically attracted a somewhat white, older male audience. And that means the people who are not only doing and making science and innovating for us are not representative of the continually more diverse world in which we live, or country, community in which we live. And that means that science, in some ways, will literally be starved for talent, because a more diverse society has to participate and contribute to science, or we simply won't have enough people to build jet engines or to help us innovate and deliver vaccines. You name the science and technology topic. But in addition to that, we think that our institution has a very important role to play to make sure that science is offered in a more friendly way to diverse populations who may not be coming and may not come to museums, much less to science and technology, engineering and math, and those careers. So we've got a very concerted focus on trying to increase the proportion of those who participate in our work in science through the Connecticut Science Center who are of color and women.
That was actually going to be my next question, is what are you doing to reach communities of color like Latinos? So can you give us a couple of examples of how you're reaching the communities that normally don't look at science as a potential career?
Yeah, I'd love that opportunity, and thank you. First of all, I would say that the Connecticut Science Center um, has made strides and demonstrated a commitment to this issue, but has work to do. And I think any organization that looks in the mirror in the face of the post-George Floyd era that we're now in has to acknowledge that even our best efforts on the best day are not enough. We must become more sophisticated, more committed, and more proactive on these issues. And we're endeavoring to do that. I would say that the Science Center, going back to 2017, recognized this issue from a demographic perspective and a mission and moral perspective, and undertook some specific initiatives to engage girls and women in science and technology and engineering and math, and also to try to make it more accessible and approachable, and to reach out more to people of color, including Latinos. And we've done that through raising grant funds to help us provide more field trips in communities which, without those funds, may not be able to participate in the Science Center services. And because of the way our state is organized, if you serve an urban community, you're very likely to be serving a larger proportion of diverse individuals. So that's one endeavor that we focused on. We also have launched an Access membership program, which is a discounted way for families who qualify using the WIC program, for example, as a means test, an income-based test, to participate in the Science Center as a member. And we work very hard to reach out proactively to the communities where you're going to be interested in that program, and to do that with real attention to the desire to reach out to individuals of color and families in our cities whose children have all the potential and all the promise to be major contributors to science and research, and who can benefit from their participation in these fields in the future. We also have recently seeded a diversity, equity, access, and inclusion working group of employees at the Science Center, which is chaired by two of our finest professionals, Amy Saylor, who has worked on all these programs previously, and Eva Cintrone from our Visitor Services Department, who's also just a magnificent professional. And they're co-chairing this group of diverse Connecticut Science Center employees who will be putting together a strategic plan on diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Well, that's good to know for the future of science and for future scientists that come and see the museum. It's open again, correct? And good. And it's, did I read somewhere that admission is free until November?
Not for the Science Center.
Oops.
We are definitely open. And for those who are members, including the Access members, their admission is included all year. They can come as many times as they'd like.
So what are the hours, and where can people tune into the Green Gala should they feel that Mo Rocca's comedy is their interest?
Yeah, I think the best thing to do is to offer the Connecticut Science Center's website, which is ctsciencecenter.org, www.ctsciencecenter.org. And you can find all of these things, including the hours that we're open, the days that we're open, the admission, the Access membership program, which I think would be very interesting to people to check out, and certainly the Gala as well.
Thank you very much for joining us, Matt. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, and thank you and your team for all you're doing.
Thanks. Tune in next week for another episode. Follow us on Twitter at CT Latino News and Instagram at CT_Latino News. I'm Savani Campos with CTLN Opinion Plus. See you next time.